Welcome, James Markey. It's a pleasure to have you with us here. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be part of this. I really enjoy getting to connect with people and have a good time in that way. So let me ask you, am I sideways for you? Because if I am, okay, well then I'll just do that.
Now we are perfect.
I thought it'd be a way to sort of set this up, and there we go. All right,
James, thanks a lot for being with us. Thanks a lot for your patience, for your support, as always. I think people are wondering, what is your daily routine nowadays? We can see you, we can hear you really good on your Instagram account, on Facebook, on social media. You are really active at the moment. How's being at home, your quarantine, your lockdown? Where are you right now?
Well, where am I right now? Right now I'm at home, and I'm actually in my office. I have to confess, I'm getting kind of some noise, some kind of scratching noises. It's a little hard to grab onto. I'm not quite sure. That's much better. It must be your microphone against your headphones. I think. That's much better. That's much better. Could you say that question again? Now I can grab you.
Okay, I was asking you, where are you right now? Do you live in Boston?
I live outside of Boston in a town about 16 miles. I guess it'd be. You go by kilometers, so about let me think, probably about 30 kilometers. Okay. A little less than 30 kilometers outside of Boston, but it's a town that has a little. It has a nice. It has a we have some property here. Not that much property. We've got a yard. We've got almost enough bedrooms for the kids. So we actually have 4 children, and we have 4 bedrooms. So we've got 2 children who double up in the beds, but in the bedroom, I should say, but they have their own beds. We've got 1 daughter and 3 sons. And so that's where I am. We also have a noisy dog who you may hear barking from time to time. But if you do, we'll do our best to kind of keep her sort of quiet. But she may go on a bit of a barking jag, because I generally tend to be the one in the house who quiets her down.
James, I can call you Jim, right?
Please call me Jim. That's fine.
Jim, how's being at home surrounded by your family? I think you are not used to.
First of all, it's a fantastic thing. I usually am pretty busy during the week. My schedule before we went off would be, I would generally schedule all of my teaching for Tuesday. So I might be gone all day on Tuesday. And then Wednesday might have some work after double rehearsals. So we have a rehearsal on Monday, our typical schedule is to rehearse on Tuesday, then I have 2 rehearsals on Wednesday, rehearse on Thursday, then concerts Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, sometimes the following Tuesday night. So my long days some days are longer than others, but I generally, I'll keep Monday as my day home. So, now with this, the whole COVID-19 business that we're all dealing with, that's a very different scenario, because I am surrounded by my family, which is wonderful, and at the same time incredibly challenging. If I want to practice and everyone's at school, I can just go practice. But if I want to practice and everyone's at home, this might mean helping guide children through their various, help the kids through the various school activities and things like that. So, but I've been having a great time. It's just been really demanding in a different way.
How do you manage your time? Because now your daily routine, you have to do it 24/7 at home.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. What we have at this point is, I'm fortunate that my eldest child's 15, so she can be a help to a certain degree, but she's also independent when she needs to do her schoolwork. And my 12-year-old is pretty independent with his stuff as well. A little bit more guidance through the course of the day. Our 8-year-old needs more guidance to get through things, but he's becoming more independent. So things are getting a little bit easier. As far as doing a daily routine or a daily regimen or a daily practicing, honestly, one of the things that really keeps me going is the fact that I have this Instagram practice challenge going on. That makes sure that I actually touch the trombone every day. And you might think, well, gosh, you're home for 24 hours a day. Why can't you, I know it's hard having kids and it's hard with those things, but gosh, you mean you can't carve out 3 hours in the day to practice? Doesn't seem like that much. Well, when you start cooking breakfast for 6 people and lunch for 6 people and dinner for 6 people, and you start doing that and that's not a small amount. It's not a huge amount, but it's not a small amount either. And my wife and I try to split the jobs up so that she's not constantly, we don't have one of us who's constantly needing to go from one thing to the next. And it means that, an example today, I should clarify. In addition to the kids, I'm also the chair of the brass and percussion department at New England Conservatory. So I have administrative details to take care of. And in addition to that, I have I'm also the chair of the Players Committee in the Boston Symphony. So the fact that I have all those things on, it means there's a certain amount of administration I need to deal with. So I'll be doing things like laptop work and opening up my laptop to do email. But at the same time that I'm trying to accomplish that, I might be trying to help get this child started doing this, or with this other child trying to help get some breakfast going, things like that. The truth is, it's a really, really challenging time, but it's challenging in a completely different way from what I'm used to. And I've always respected very much the kind of job that my spouse has at home, that my wife has at home, but there's a difference between respecting it and really living it and understanding what that actually means. And that's the big thing. That's probably the biggest, the biggest thing is just living life as a stay-at-home parent when you're still trying to work and still trying to do all the things that you need to do. And so it means that I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Well, I'm not a bit of a perfectionist. I am very much a perfectionist.
I know that.
I'm the kind of kid that when my daughter was a year old or 18 months old, and she would pull all the books off of the bookshelves and lay them out on the floor, I would grab those books and I put them back on the shelf every night in alphabetical order by author. So I was the librarian. Like, I want to make sure things are organized, and I had to learn how to let things go. I mean, it's not just that, it's the other things. I've had to learn how to let things go and to be okay with being a good enough parent or a good enough administrator or a good enough trombonist at times, and saying, just being the best at all of these things is just an impossible thing to do. And it's required a little bit of self-forgiveness, a little bit of resetting my own expectations for myself, but understanding that sometimes good enough just has to be good enough.
Jim, how did you start the idea to do this challenge that you are posting a video every single day?
That's a really good question. And this all started because my daughter's a violinist. She is aware of other things. She's told me about the Hilary Hahn challenge. And I got to be around the end of November. And I wasn't feeling very good about my playing. Honestly, I wasn't feeling very good about what I was doing, how I was sounding, or my consistency. And I said, I think in the new year, I'm going to start a practice challenge like Hilary Hahn did. And my wife said, well, why are you waiting for the new year? Why don't you just start it now? I said, well, that's a really good point. Why don't I start it right now? So I did. I did start it right then.
Because before that, you didn't have an Instagram account, right?
I did, but I wasn't active on it at all. I had an account. I think I had, at that point, this time I started, I might have had between 700 and 1,700 followers. And then I started this practice challenge, and in a way, just to share with people, my goal with the practice challenge is not to show me sounding awesome. That's my job as a performer, is to perform. And that means that when I'm performing, I want to be at the top of my game. My goal with the practice challenge is twofold. It's one, to help to be, It's number one for me to share with other people how I try to achieve the levels that I do and the things that I do to do that. And hopefully to show people that, sometimes you think, oh gosh, so-and-so has reached this levels, they must do really complex, complicated things. I want to know what I need to do. And what I want to share with people is that it's doing the simple things really well that allow you, or allow me in this case, that allow me to do what I need to do at the highest level. And so that's one of the things in the practice challenge, is just to show people how I might resolve a problem. And sometimes I do things that are fun. I did Fountains Down the Octave challenge. That was giving myself 7 days to practice it. That was a fun project for me. And it resulted from a series of requests. I'd requested ideas from people because I was about day 60 or 65 or so. I'm wondering, what am I going to put up now? So I requested people put some ideas up. Fountains Down the Octave was one of them. And I turned it into a 7-day mini practice challenge. But the goal is to show people how I work in order to try to improve my playing and the kinds of things that I do and the ways that I'll try to solve problems. And it's not meant to be a textbook. It's more meant for people to see that the process by which we grow and learn is a very fluid one. And it's a very individual one. And it's one that doesn't necessarily have any set rules in it. So the second reason I put it up is for the accountability factor. I want to have a reason to need to play the horn every day. And gosh, there have been some times that I've pulled out the horn for the first time at about 11:30 at night. And I've wanted to just go to bed. And instead I've said, no, I haven't played it all today. I've got to play. And I think the shortest amount I've played in this today, I did my 157th post in a row. I think the shortest amount of time I've played on any day was once on Christmas Day, I played Go Tell It on the Mountain. And I'd only played a couple notes before that, recorded that, and that was about it. There was one day that I was sick that I played for about 15 minutes. But for the most part, this is keeping me playing the horn at least 30 minutes, which might not sound like that much. It might not sound like, oh gosh, what's 30 minutes? Well, you know what? 30 minutes is better than 0.
That's true.
And the other thing I think of, and I tell my students this all the time, and that is that when you practice, it's like putting money into the bank. When you put money in, there might be certain investments that you can put your money into that you get a great rate of return. These are the things in practicing that you do well. You naturally do it well. Naturally, you play soft very well, for example. You practice your soft playing and you see measurable results. If you haven't been playing soft very well, you do a little bit of practicing, all of a sudden it's better. That's a great rate of return. There are other things that you get a very, very low rate of return. You don't do well. They're naturally very difficult for you. And in those cases, you need to put a lot of time in order to get just a little bit of dividend or a little bit of reward. Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. So what a person should practice in a day, sometimes when people ask me, what do you do as a warm-up every day? I have my thing, but it's very specific to me based on what I feel is important. I do feel a lot of players should do it, and it's a basis, but it only lasts about 5 minutes. And then after that, it's really a buffet of what you as an individual need to get. For me, I know what I'm strong in, what I don't really need to practice that much, and I know the things that I'm weaker in that I need to spend more time on. And so this practice challenge has been hopefully giving people an idea of, you've had 157 days of now me doing various things. If you go back and see, you're going to see me playing sometimes soft, sometimes loud, seeing all sorts of things, but you'll start to see patterns of what
every day is something different, actually.
And I try, that's very much intentional, because for me, if I've practiced loud playing on Monday, I don't need to practice loud playing on Tuesday. I need to practice something else, because if I practice loud playing on Monday, then I probably didn't practice soft playing on Tuesday. I probably didn't practice soft playing. So especially at a time that I'm not performing and I'm not being required to use various skills in performance, I need to make sure that I'm actually practicing everything over the course of, say, a 2-week period, so that anything that I would need to use when I do go back to work, I can use it. And that's not going to happen unless I actually spend the time practicing a given thing.
Jim, talking about goals, since we start this quarantine, this lockdown, however you want to call it, do you have some short-term goals or long-term goals?
That's a really good question. I've actually been prepping myself to get to have some shorter term goals, because I've always grown best. I should say, I won't say always. Throughout my life, I have typically done the most amount of growth and the most amount of improvement when I have had a specific goal in mind. So right now, I'll say that my Facebook page recently logged 10,000 likes. So I've got 10,000. That's a benchmark. On my Instagram account, I've got about 9,700 followers. So once I reach about the 10,000 follower threshold, my next bit is planning to use my YouTube account. So I haven't used it that much. The truth is, between my family and between my work with the BSO and my committee work, I don't use social media very much. I just don't. I'm not a consumer of it because I don't have time. And in terms of staying connected to the outside world, this is my way of giving back to the outside world to say, yes, I'm a performer. It's my job to give people content to enjoy, whether to grow or whether to enjoy. So I'm going to keep doing that, as that's how I'm using social media with the practice challenge. So my intent is that I'm going to set a threshold for my YouTube channel as well. That if perhaps once I get 10,000 Facebook, 10,000 Instagram, and maybe, I haven't set it up, but maybe 5,000 YouTube subscribers.
If you have your YouTube channel active?
I do have an active YouTube channel. It's got about 3,500 subscribers, something like that. But if I get to 5,000, I've been thinking about doing a YouTube live event and just do a recital from my house, a 30-minute recital in celebration, and just have it be a YouTube live event, which honestly, that's a scary thing. It's scary going on for the world to see. It's one thing when you're at a conference, you go to a school and you play for people, and there are 150 people in the audience. There's a real connection there between the performer and the audience that doesn't exist the same way over electronic media like this. I think there's a difference between me talking to you here and then us sitting next to each other or across from each other at a table or in a room having the same conversation. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But that said, I may very well do some type of a YouTube live event to celebrate, those events. So that's what I have going through my mind. So the kinds of things that you might see me doing, where maybe a Boutrier etude or a Biche etude, or if I'm working a little bit on psychedelia because I'm planning on pulling that back up, or some other event. These are things that I am thinking about putting onto a YouTube live concert. So yeah, that's sort of my short-term goal.
Your connection was kind of getting stopped for a bit. We lost you for a while.
Yeah, we lost me. Yeah, I lost you too. But our Zoom connection was. What I will say is that my short-term goals is sort of like getting some kind of performance like this, this YouTube performance here going. That's going to be something I'm going to try to do. So,
Jim, tell me something. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt you. Can you tell me something? How are you working with your students at the moment?
So, yeah, in terms of working with my students at the moment. Yeah. Sorry, I'm hearing you. We're having some Instagram difficulties, although our Zoom channel link here is fine. Yeah. But our Instagram is a little bit more challenged. So, okay. So it looks like we're live. Can you talk? I think we're okay now.
Yes, we're okay. 100%. Keep on going.
Great. Good.
Smile.
Okay. So, yes. Oh, yeah. Exactly. This technology, it's always a challenge. So how is it working with my students? Well, you had a direct experience right there just then of what it can be like working with online when we're dealing with multiple connections and multiple challenges. So, I'm fortunate that the internet at our house actually works pretty well. We have, so all of my children are involved in NEC Prep, New England Conservatory's preparatory division, which is their division for high school students and younger. So even my 5-year-old is enrolled in NEC Prep. He plays viola. And the reason I bring that up is because on Saturdays, we have 5 video meetings going on at the same time at 11 o'clock. So we've got music theory, an orchestra, a chamber music. I'm teaching trombone choir, and my son's in a Suzuki group class. So, so fortunately, our internet is usually able to handle multiple video feeds. How is it for my students? Well, one of the things that I've really tried to do with my students to make this more effective is to have the students submit a video, upload a video, say, to YouTube or to some other link that will be their performance video for their lesson. So that when I log in and we connect, I'll be the one who's listening to the lesson on my end and sharing the audio and the video with them. It's a little broken. It's not great for them, but for me, it's very clear. And then I can get a pretty good idea of what's happening. I find that to be better, to work out better than live performing. Because with the live performing, you can have video problems. It can be much less productive. If I have video content that's uploaded that I know I'm going to be able to see, then that constitutes the performance within the lesson. And so what we'll do is, I'll listen to something for 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, however long I need to, and then stop it, point out some things, and then work with my students during the lesson live, work with them on that particular,
You hear together the recording that your student send you.
Yeah, exactly. So we listen to that recording together. That's exactly it.
Okay.
And the truth is it's not ideal because you'll miss that relationship that you have when you're with someone face to face. But you still see body language. There's still communication involved. You can still hear tone of voice. You can still communicate. You just don't have that same kind of personal connection that's in the room. But as a substitute, it's not a bad substitute. It's a lot better than, say, working over the phone. If you would call someone on the phone, it's that you miss the whole body language aspect. So I'm grateful that we have the video resources that we do.
So how can you judge the level of your student? Is completely different if you have it to your student live, or you're now recording, or even on a face-to-face, but on Instagram or Zoom.
Well, yes and no. I mean, the truth is that if you ever listen to your voice, I mean, anyone who's watching this can say, I'll ask you, when you record your voicemail, you've got your cell phone, you record your voicemail message. Yeah, hi, you've reached Jim. I can't come to the phone. Leave your name, number. When you listen back to your own voice, when other people ask you, or when you ask other people, do I really sound like that? Other people say, yeah, you do. And it's not a perfect representation of the way you sound. It's not a full and complete representation of the way that you sound, but it's an accurate representation of the way that you sound. Just like the photo that you have of Instagram right now that I'm seeing of you, that photo is that the way you look? Well, yes. I mean, maybe, at my face, I've got shadow on my face. Do I look this way? Yes, I do. I mean, if I would go back a little bit further and get more light in my face, do I look better? Can I make myself look a little better? Yes, I can. But I still look the way that I look. You're not going to look at me and say, oh gosh, you don't look like you anymore. You look like somebody else. I might look like me on a bad day. I might look like me on a good day. With my students, they encounter the same thing. And I look at it the same way with them, is that we're either, I'm seeing them on a good day through live, or I'm seeing them on a good day through the audio that they have, or I'm seeing them on a bad day. And they're just not playing. Maybe they're not playing well, but I can still tell whether they're, is the intonation good? Is the, I think we, is the intonation good? Is the rhythm good? Is the sound good? These are all things that I think are important for us to be a part of. So,
Jim, sorry to interrupt you again. Can you join again the live on Instagram?
Yep. And it says I was live, and now I'm looking to see, is there a way to, let's see, let me X out.
It's like a rejoin the live.
Yeah, I'm looking live.
I don't know what happened, because on Zoom it's working really good.
I know.
Instagram.
Joined. Request. Send request.
Yes, I have to tell the guys. Okay, now Jim is coming with us back in 3, 2, 1. He's back.
Yep. I'm back. I'm back.
We were talking about your student. How are you judging them on their daily routine? On how difficult is that?
Yes. I'm sorry. Say it again. I missed you. I didn't hear I didn't hear your question there. Sorry about that.
How is working with your students since this quarantine started, this lockdown started? How's working with them through Zoom, through their daily routines at home? For example, what kind of equipment are you using? What kind of equipment they are using at the moment?
The truth is everybody has what they have available. So most of my students, all of my students have good quality audio equipment that they can use. Not high-end, not professional, but Zoom, the other Zoom company, that kind of equipment. One of my students has a Zoom Q8 digital recorder with microphone. Another of my students has, some of my students have the IQ7, that iPhone mic. So that's actually what I use to make my practice videos. And the truth is that I wind up, how it works is for me, I will work with them with my laptop. This has been a temporary situation. And I did get a good quality microphone that I can use, that I can demonstrate. But Zoom, there's only so much through Zoom that you can gather, because it does, no matter how you place the settings, it's not great audio quality. That's why I have my students all record and upload a content, usually about 8 to 15 minutes, 8 minutes to 15 minutes of everything that they want to play in their lesson. And so what we do then is we sit down. I ask them to upload it to their YouTube pages as an unlisted video.
Okay.
And then we listen to it together. And I'll stop and start and make comments. So when we're live, through Zoom, through the video app, for that, we'll go ahead and
just talk?
work. I'm sorry?
And just talk, having a chat about the recordings.
Well, we'll talk, but we'll also do actual work there. If I might say, in this particular spot, hey, sounds a little rough here. Let's work on that. They've got their instrument. They then play. We work on it live in that setting to try to make it better. And then we go back to the video that they recorded and listen to that. So we use the video as the basis by which we make the live adjustments. And that, I think, has worked out really well for us, that we can really understand. That's probably then been the most positive change, of understanding that it doesn't matter how the quality of my audio setup where I am, if it's going through Zoom or through that kind of service, it's not, the technology doesn't exist yet for it to be a really high quality medium that way. Mm. If instead I record it and then upload a recording to YouTube, that's much more likely to be a positive
Jim,
experience.
Tell me something. How are you working in the way that our recitals or final exams at the conservatorium? How are you dealing with that?
For the recitals and the final exams, what we're doing is we're having the students video their recitals. So in this case, many students don't have access to an accompanist. So we're giving people the option to record, to change their recital repertoire to be more solo repertoire, unaccompanied repertoire. We're also giving people the opportunity to, if they can find a pianist, they are welcome to work with a pianist. But you can imagine these days that's challenging with social distancing that everyone's having. So if they are simply recording their recital repertoire without an accompaniment, they can do that. I've already seen some recitals that some of them are pretty interesting. What people do is that some people will have a file, maybe a MIDI file of the piano part, and play along with that file, choose their tempo, and then play along with it. It doesn't work for all repertoire, but it can work for some repertoire, and that can be effective. So what we're doing is modifying what we have been doing to work for the end of the semester. I expect that if we're still in these kind of circumstances in September, we will have a different plan in place, because I don't think any of us really thought or envisioned about having everything that we're doing be online. When we've got more time to think and process and consider how we can do things online, we'll do it better than we're doing it now. Now is not, let's face it, it's not as positive as it can be with a face-to-face conversation. But does that mean that it can't be a positive thing? No, and it is positive to some degree. But there are things that we can do better so that the students get an even better experience.
Jim, leaving at the side a little bit for a while, the trombone. I know you love to talk about trombone, but just leave it for 5-6 minutes at the side. Tell me, what are you missing the most nowadays?
That's a very complicated question. Honestly, the truth is, what I miss is my colleagues. I miss the camaraderie. I miss the friendship. I miss the going into people, giving them a handshake or a hug and saying, great to see you, how you doing? Because usually, if we're gone from work, we're gone for 3 weeks. And then when we come back, we haven't seen each other, and we're really glad to see each other. And I miss that. We've been gone now for almost 2 months, not seeing each other. The last concert we played, I think, was May 11th or March 11th.
March 11th. So, do you remember what did you play?
Yeah, it was kids' concerts. I wasn't feeling well, so I missed the very last concert. They were education concerts. Okay. But it was a series of repertoire. I'm thinking that William Tell was on there, but I could be wrong. I have to confess I don't remember exactly because it was 2 months ago.
But the last concert was 11 of March.
Yeah. But what I really miss, the thing I miss more than anything is it's seeing my colleagues and seeing my friends.
And playing together.
And I mean, yeah, playing together. There's something magical about being on stage with so many other people and knowing that you have a part to play and that it's not the whole thing. Knowing that the part that you play may be a less important part, maybe an insignificant part, but it's still a part that matters. And you start to realize that we're like different parts of the human body. Some people might be, you might have someone who's got a very important job and it's like they're the eye. And another person who's got an important job that's like the hand. Another person who's got a less important job, maybe they're the hair. But the truth is, all of that comes together to make a human body. And all of that is necessary to have that body function. And when any one of those things isn't there, you notice it. You never wake up in the morning and say, gosh, I'm glad my knees feel good. But what you will notice it is, if you wind up injuring your knee, then when you finally get over the injury, you might wake up and say, oh, the pain in my knee is gone. Wow, I'm so grateful for that. And so when we're making music on stage and we are different parts of the human body, all with a job to do, I miss that. No. That said, the truth is I'm a natural born introvert. It's one of the reasons I don't use social media as much, because the things that are really close to me and important to me are the things that I can see. It's why my students, why I can give more, that's why I can give a lot to my students, because they really matter. They really matter to me. They're part of my internal community, like my kids. And I have 4 kids. So when I'm home, it's not like I'm alone. My wife and I have 4 people which to take care of. So it really does change things in that way.
Jim, are you having some recordings, of course, a part of your daily recordings? People are asking you, Jim, can you help me please to do this kind of drum quartet or this ensemble to help this country, or some extra recordings at the moment?
There have been a couple of things that I've participated in. Mostly I've done them on my own. I did get invited to participate in a project. The truth is that I was not able to get a video up for that project. And the truth is that it's just because it is a very daunting task being home alone with my family. As I mentioned before, there's so much here to do that to add other things on top of that and to say, oh, now that you're doing this, you also have to do this. It's challenging. Now, there's one caveat with that our family has been very active in our church in terms of our music team at the church, and we've continued to contribute to the church in that regard. We just made some family videos yesterday where we sang as a family and put some things up. And the church has YouTube live services, and they'll put it up there as worship for people to sing along or to serve as a place within the service. So it's not that we're not giving back to the community. That's one of the things that by doing the practice challenge, I am trying to give back. By doing things like the church, I am trying to give back. I'm participating. I think all of us, especially all of us who are musicians, are involved. What we do is an act of service. And it is important for us to give back, for us to continue to serve the community that's looking for it. And when you see some of the things that orchestras put out or people put out, people are yearning for that kind of connection, because music itself expresses, I say music expresses the inexpressible. There are things that you can experience through music that you really have a hard time experiencing through words. But that music can just bring it to the fore. You can imagine just the moments in Mahler symphonies where there'll be it's quiet and then there's a build up and then all of a sudden there's this release. I'm thinking towards the end of the 4th movement of Mahler 1, and it just makes you go like this and draw out emotions and just makes you want to cry in a way that a beautiful story. It takes a really beautiful story to make that happen.
Jim, talking about music, do you think people will appreciate music a little bit more after this quarantine lockdown?
I do. I really do. I think people will really appreciate. I think what people are going to appreciate is the fact that we are a community together. And that's what I think people are missing more than anything now. In the United States, we have a very small number of protesters, but they get a lot of publicity who don't want a social distance. I think, and part of it's based on individual rights, but I think part of it is based on they have their communities and they don't want to lose their communities. I think we're all feeling that we're not as connected as we used to be. And I think we're all missing that connection. And so just like if your knee is, you don't go to bed or you don't wake up in the morning saying, I'm glad my knee is well, until you have a problem with your knee, and then you appreciate it. So do I think people will come to understand music more, or people will appreciate music more? Absolutely. I think absolutely they will. I think people will probably be afraid to come back because they'll be afraid to be gathered in places with thousands of people. But I think that as we get through this and have a path forward that makes sense, that people can feel confident that they're not going to get sick, I think people will do so. I think people were really, really going to yearn for it and to miss it. I think they do miss it now.
We lost you again. Okay. Can you hear me on Instagram?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
I can hear you.
We are here back. Yes.
Yep.
Jim, what do you think is going to be the first thing that you will do when everything gets into normal? We know that as musicians, this is going to be the last job, the last work that is going to be into normal again. For example, football players, they have to be on a team. Us as a musician, we have to be also as a team to work and do our job properly.
Right.
What do you think is going to be the first thing that you will do?
The first thing that I will do
in the new beginning.
The first thing that I will do in the new beginning, the truth is, I think things are going to come back very, very slowly. Things are not going to come back quickly. We're not going to go back to having concert halls full of people. But I hope to play a part in the music that we make. I don't expect that we'll start off by having huge orchestras, huge orchestra pieces. I expect that we may have smaller orchestra pieces. But hopefully eventually we will go to larger orchestra pieces. Maybe that'll happen sooner rather than later. But the thing I will do from the beginning is I remember why I got into music, and that's because the joy that it gives me. And the reason why I do this for a living is because I want to share that joy with others. And so if that's sharing that joy, if that's sharing that joy with 2,500 people, is it worth it? Of course. Is it worth it if it's only 1,000 people? Yes. What about 100 people? If only 100 people come to a concert, is it worth playing? Yes. One person. If one person comes to the concert to listen to the concert, is that worth it? Yes, it is. So the biggest thing I will do is make sure I will do everything in my power that I can give the best performance that I can, so I can be the most effective musician that I can, so I can avoid being a distraction, but also provide something positive to the experience that people have when they do eventually come to a concert.
Totally agree, Jim. I really like your answer. Just a little bit going into the end of this really nice talk with you, Jim. Thanks for your time again.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Matthias.
Of course. I have to tell you 5 things because I know you a little bit. So I think I can tell you 5 really important things for you, and you have to reply with 5 other words. You have to use just one word each. For example, if I tell you trombone, you reply with one word.
One word. Oh, that's a good question. Oh. Trombone. Joy.
Okay, we start over again to reach those 5 things. Okay.
Got it.
Family.
Life.
Cooking.
Fun.
Future.
Hope.
Music.
Joy.
And the last one, orchestra.
Community.
Amazing answers. Thanks a lot, people on Instagram.
You're welcome.
We will put this interview on YouTube soon. I hope with some subtitles as well.
And thank you, everybody. So I know there were some internet connections, and I know you lost me. So it appears to have been on I don't know if it was on my end or what end, but I'm glad to have had a chance to talk with you. Matthias, thank you very much for having me. Thank you for hosting this. Great discussion. I really appreciate it. I appreciate being able to reach out to people and being able to talk to you and have these interactions. They're so important to what we do.
It's really important.
They're so important to life.
Yes.